Good morning, everyone. This is Melissa here, and I want to talk to you this morning about our mindset. Having a mindset that is strong and able to do something in your life when other people tell you you can't. I remember having children, and I had many people tell me, you can't afford kids. Why would you want to change another diaper? Kids are brats was the mentality many times that I heard. So, I mean, just that desire to have children not even being there, because if children are brats, who in the world would want children? Also, the mindset of, women need to basically worship their bodies and they can't get fat and they can't, you know, gain any weight because, in a sense, you're just an object for men. So many times women look absolutely beautiful being pregnant. And how do we change this mindset that I'm hearing from other girls that, pregnancy is such a torture, nobody should be forced into pregnancy? For me, I had a desire, not as a girl, but later on in life, to have children. I had a situation where abortion was coerced on me, and I actually wondered if at one point it was, a desire, because I had uh, let me see, had come to a point of realizing that that was actually a baby, not a chunk of cells. And so, therefore, I don't know if it was like a phantom baby or whatever I forget the technical term they call that, but I did desire to have a baby after coming to know the truth of that was a baby. I was pregnant with my firstborn, and he was kicking, and the truth was hitting me. Whereas before, I had no idea what an abortion was. I was told, just to, don't even read a paper, just sign it, just, do that, and then taken into a restaurant and dilated, and then from there just being taken into a car and dilating, and then into an office and coldly being told to get dressed afterwards. And I do remember that. I didn't know what was going on. I just knew I had to go through whatever was happening, because pregnancy was a bad thing. um, and I remember, a nurse just leaning on me, telling me it was going to be okay, holding my hand, and me just blanking out. And then after all that happened, walking partway home, and then gym class the next day, and it never talked about again. So that is kind of what had happened to me. And then once I was pregnant, not knowing anything about the development of a baby, I was pregnant. I was thrilled to be pregnant. I had gone to the pregnancy center for a free pregnancy test, and I had mentioned something about the abortion, and the lady there told me that God forgives as far as the east to the west. And at that time, I had for somehow taken the blame. I thought God was mad at me and he was punishing me, and therefore I could not have any children. So I was thrilled to be pregnant. But once that baby started kicking, I just kind of hit rock bottom, and I just was like, holy cow, this was really a baby. It wasn't, years later I saw on my record a clump of cells. So it was all swept under the rug, all denied, pretended it had never happened up until that point. And then once that came, I mean, I was kind of going under and just felt like killing myself, but I couldn't, because I was pregnant. And I didn't know what to do with the guilt. I had no idea how in the world to deal with that truth that subconsciously was coming out. And let me see here. So the lady at the pregnancy center gave me that, and I kind of held on to that. I knew how to justify. I mean, I knew how to just say, well, this is why I did this, or this is what this is okay because of this. But I had not ever really been taught about forgiveness. So I couldn't really forgive myself. And then, I would just chew on it and think about it. And I was pregnant and I was thinking and thinking about what this lady said. And I thought, oh my goodness, if God can forgive me at that time, I felt like it was all my fault. But if God could forgive me, then who am I not to forgive myself? And so I just was kind of still dealing with that. And right before that, I had gone to hairdressing school, and I met this lady at one of the salons I had worked at for a short time, and she was a Christian, and she invited me over to her home, and they had a group having a picnic talking about Jesus Christ, and I thought they were all weirdos. So this is kind of how my story came together. And then I was home and I was pregnant, and somebody said, "Why don't you come to church with me?" And I thought, church? No way. No way. I'm not into church. But I also thought, wow, I want to raise my son the best I can. I want to do better. So I went to church for his sake. And I heard the gospel the second time I was there, and I was saved. And it was great. And so the abortion process had taken a long time to heal. As I had more children, I was learning more about how children develop. I had home births, and I was learning, especially in the home births, more about the baby's developments. I had beautiful picture books to teach me even more. So let me see. But yet we were very poor. We didn't have any money. I mean, with one person working with a bunch of kids, it's, I think at one point it was 18,000 with 3 kids, and there just wasn't a lot of money. But what I did do is I chose to homeschool my kids, which saved a lot of money. And it also allowed me the time that I needed to turn things around. And what I did was I read a lot of books. I read and read and read and read. And as I read, without really realizing that not only was I homeschooling my kids, but I was educating myself. And as I read, that investment in myself was huge. It was a huge investment. And I could have never guessed, as I see the picture come together now, what a wonderful investment that was. And that investment was because I was home. I chose to be home with my kids. And a lot of times I read. One of my first books that I read was What to Expect When You're Expecting. I wasn't a big reader growing up, but I did read this book because I felt I needed to know how to raise my kids, how to raise a baby. And as I went from that book, I went to one book after another, reading the back references and picking up more books and, how do you do this and how do you do that? Now, that would not have happened if I was out working and trying to take care of my kids or sending them to daycare. But because I had nothing to do, and in a sense wanted to keep my sanity because we had a big family in a trailer. We lived in a trailer, 12 by 65 without much, square feet at all. So what I had to do was in my spare time after working really hard in a small space to keep the trailer clean and organized, as the kids played outside as they were older, I would watch them carefully, but I also would read outside, and I read Christian books over and over, and tons of books. I mean, I think I read at that time just about every single mainstream book on homeschooling. I read many ladies' Christian books. I educated myself in church with Bible studies. So looking back, I think, well done. Well done for all that investment. And that's just from a natural curiosity I had, and a drive and determination and passion to say, how am I going to do this? Many times we have people who are naysayers in our lives. I mean, I remember hearing from somebody, I thought you were going to make something out of yourself in life. This was I think I was probably 19 then, or 20. And I just, because I was so irritated with that comment, I was motivated even more. And when we have naysayers, people saying, geez, I hope you don't ruin your kids for homeschooling them. Oh, don't tell me you're having more kids, da 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 da. We can just, be strengthened by the criticism. We don't have to let it get to us. We can be stronger. So that's what I did, and I educated myself. And what ended up happening, going from poverty to having nothing and having to work really hard, like even the cooking, I had to cook, I had to clean and work harder. And this is somebody who didn't know how to cook when I had a family. So I had to work really hard at things. I had no training in finances, so I had to work really hard to learn how to be frugal. Because before this, I was working and I was raised up to be a bit materialistic. So I was used to having, clothes and having stuff on the outside. But once I came to Christ, just feeding my soul really satisfied me. Um, but anyways, it was beyond frugality. I mean, it was more like survival, trying to take care of the kids. And I used all the resources available. I used WIC, I used pantries, I used Medicaid, I used, hand-me-downs, and I really learned how to be, frugal or careful with what I had. And even then, we were still behind. We still had a hard time keeping up with bills. So I guess the main thing that kept us going was, the hard work. I mean, hard enough work that your back can feel it, where you're feeling like, okay, if I burn that food, we have nothing else tonight to eat. So hard work and what else? Just using your mind, making sure your mindset is correct. And I think what ended up happening was, I mean, we can have the working poor who work hard all their lives and they still have nothing. What needs to happen is an education needs to get in there. The mindset needs to change so that although you have hard circumstances, having a strong mindset, having a strong faith, having biblical principles put in your life is going to change your thinking and change your actions. So now we have much more, and I give all the glory to God. But it was a lot of work. It was, being in a community too, being in a church, which I had never been in church before, and seeing how other people do it. How do other people live? How do they practice their faith? And knowing that our contentment comes from not from without, it's internal. So this is kind of my testimony here that I'm sharing. I'm getting a little bit deeper. So when we have people who say we can't do it, I mean, it kind of motivates me to do it even more. So what we want to do is we want to have a really strong faith, and that is what will get us through when we have nothing. We want to daily encourage ourselves, pray, ask God to help us, and He will. And I'll never forget the time that it was Christmas. We had 3 kids. We had no money for Christmas. And, people will just say, oh, well, just save. Christmas comes every year. Why can't you save? When you are poor, there is no money to save. And when you do have an emergency fund, it goes pretty quick. And so I cried out to God, and I literally cried because Christmas has always been an important time to me. And I literally, after getting off the couch and praying, had a woman call me and say, Melissa, can you come over here down the road? I have something for you. And she had a card with $100 bill in it. And she said, God just put me on her heart. I mean, I didn't tell anybody anything. And I went to the dollar store that year, and we had a great Christmas. The kids were small, and I picked up quite a bit for them. So we can do it. We just need to have a strong mindset. And that is also with, I'm not trying to make it sound easy, but this is with one bill, one disconnect bill after another, one eviction notice after another. staying on your feet, taking care of the bills, getting behind in your bills, and you're still able to be strong and say, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. If I have to call the bank and get deferred payments, I'm going to do that. If I have to, call the city welfare office, I'm going to do that. But when you put your mind to it and you work really hard at something, I think for the most part you can do it. I also know there was a situation in my past that I knew that somebody in the family had many kids, many kids, and they lived dirt poor. And just like I was dirt poor at one point, because of the kids. And this woman instead chose the other way, and she chose to go and she chose to be selfish and think of herself and drink alcohol and not provide for her family and not take care of them and just live a very selfish life. So we can choose with a circumstance to either make the best of it, take our lemons and make lemonade, or we can choose to get discouraged or frustrated or not call out and say, hey, I could use some help here, not communicate, and suffer and needlessly suffer instead of saying, let me get a job, let me do this, let me do that. So, and I know back years ago, about, I don't know, 55 years ago, a lot of women did not work. Maybe I'm thinking longer than that. They didn't work. They were expected to be home. There was a social feeling that women should be home, and many women probably couldn't even work if they wanted to. But I think even in dirt poverty, you are better off to have the mother's presence in the home, and her being a positive light in the home, a positive presence, setting a positive atmosphere, even if you have nothing. You are better off to go that way than to go out and, try to, make ends meet another way and not put enough priority on your family. So, how do we help girls now who have a pregnancy? They are not prepared, they are not ready, they don't have a man in their life, they don't want this baby. We need to teach girls and counsel them on how to have their baby, because the children, they grow up and they leave home, and you've missed that opportunity. You're already a mother, and it's not that you're not having a baby, it's that you're having a dead baby now. So you've missed those opportunities in life. We don't want abortion, and we want to get to the heart of the issue. So leave me a message. Let me know your thoughts. Okay, thanks everyone. Have a great day.